Do you have the discipline to continue to do a thing even after you're bored with it? Even after the excitement and the curiosity has worn off and you've developed a proficiency at it, do you have the mental discipline to continue to do it? If so, you just may have what it takes to truly be resilient in your entrepreneurship. Let's grow. There's a quote by Bruce Lee who said that he said, I'll paraphrase. He said, I am not afraid of the person who can do 10,000 kicks. I fear the opponent who has done one kick 10,000 times. I don't fear the opponent who has 10,000 different kicks, but I fear the opponent who has the discipline to do one kick 10,000 times. The greats have an extraordinary ability to find excitement and adventure in the mundane. They have this level of mental discipline to go and stay disciplined to their routine day after day after day after day, right? Morning after morning after morning, or evening after evening after evening. I was listening to SGA, or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a perennial all-pro, all-star for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And after a recent basketball game, he was being interviewed and he was asked, this is like the 7th game in a row of 30 points. How do you maintain that level of consistency? And Shai responded, well, my life is consistent. I do the same things. I go to sleep at the same time. I eat the same foods. I work out at the same time. I spend the same amount of time with my family. And then he ended his answer with, yeah, like my life is consistent. I heard another gentleman say once before, he said, well, one of the reasons why more people aren't successful is because they can't do a simple thing for a long enough period of time to see the results. Because they don't see results early enough or soon enough, then they switch to something else before even knowing if whether or not the thing that they were already doing just might work. So often we're looking for the next, new idea. We want this concept to be explained differently. We want a new workshop or seminar of things that have never been seen and never been done. When in reality, as people give time and attention to looking for the latest and greatest and newest thing, the reality is that the old still works if we would actually use it. I know I can relate to that for sure. And so it is that even though there's a lot of, the glitz and the glamour of the entrepreneurial lifestyle, the reality is that a lot of it is mundane. It's routine. It's consistent day after day after day after day, the same act, action, or activity. So how can we reframe boredom? How do we reframe when all of the shine is worn off of what is new? How can we reframe it? How can we reframe it so that we're able to maintain the level of consistency required to get the outcome that we want? Well, as it turns out, boredom is often perceived kind of negatively. A person says, well, I'm bored, meaning like I have nothing to do. There is nothing to do. Though perceived negatively, it can actually be a catalyst for creativity, for innovation, and for discovering new opportunities. It's like it serves as like a pause, right? When you recognize that you're bored or the excitement is kind of worn off, the enthusiasm has kind of died, it serves as like a pause, which allows our minds to wonder and start to explore new thoughts and ideas so that, what is usually overshadowed actually becomes apparent. We can become so bored or in our routine that we miss the opportunities because it's being overshadowed, because we're not actually present to it, because we can do it like automatically, right? It's as though we can do it in our sleep. And the reality is that one of the places to identify your strengths, one of the places to identify new opportunity is to actually look in the place where you get bored. Because in all likelihood, a particular skill that you've developed mastery in, or mastery to the point of boredom, right? In that new skill, in that skill, that place where you're bored is very likely an opportunity for growth and expansion. Because if you look at it closely, I'd be willing to bet that what you find mundane and routine, someone else finds difficult to do. And so what if you could begin to teach what you're bored with, right? You start to teach your level of skill development and mastery so to someone who finds it difficult. What you find automatic, some find difficult, and in that could be a new opportunity for growth and expansion for you. So the thing about boredom is, one, it stimulates your creativity, right? Even though it kind of sounds oxymoronic, right? So how does boredom stimulate creativity? Well, when you're bored, think about it. Your mind is not actively engaged in the specific task, which allows it to wander and explore new creative realms, right? As you're going through the motion, right? You don't have to be locked in consciously, locked in and present to what you're doing. So now new ideas, right? New areas of exploration can actually begin to flow in because you're not having to be consciously aware of it. Remember when you first learned to drive a car? I'm pausing for a second because for some of us, we have to go way back. Remember when you first learned to drive? You had likely, both hands were on the steering wheel. You were conscious, aware. The reason why you were exhausted after a long drive was because you were consciously aware the entire time. Right now, you fast forward to today, and have you ever had the experience of you pull into your garage, you pull into your driveway, and it's like, how did I get here? Right? Question, who was driving? Because you've done it so many times over the years, because you've done it day in and day out, and you've gone that particular route day in and day out, now you can do it automatically. You can do it without being consciously aware of what it takes to drive. And think about the ideas that are able to flow in because you're not using conscious or objective awareness. So as it turns out, you being bored or you being in a state where you can be automatic in the activity or in the action can actually spawn new creativity or areas for exploration. It also, boredom, encourages self-reflection. I don't know about you, but I am definitely one who's very introspective and self-reflecting and kind of looking at areas where I can improve, ways that I can be better, strengths, weaknesses, areas of development. Sometimes, I can be very self-critical. At other times, I'm acknowledging and celebrating. But we're so busy in the course of a day. We can be so busy that we don't really have time to really self-reflect. And as we look to expand and grow relationships with other people, be they personal or professional relationships, the reality is that the most important relationship is the one that you grow with yourself. And just like every other relationship, in order for it to grow, time must be invested. In order for it to grow, time is required. So look at those places or those areas where you have opportunity to invest more time with yourself when it comes to self-reflection. Are you spending quality time with yourself? I am one who is a fan of solitude. I am one who is a fan of the quiet time to think, to reflect, particularly when I don't have anything to do. I'm not one who looks to fill that space with television or music or conversation, because that's the time to be developing relationship with myself. One of the very specific practices that I would recommend for you is that you actually allot time for you to be with yourself without an activity, without something to cloud your thinking, to cloud your mind. Be present with yourself in such a way that you value yourself as though a relationship that you are committed to growing. So not only does boredom kind of stimulate creativity, it also can encourage self-reflection. In addition to that, it can actually be a motivation. It can be a motivation for learning and exploration. What do I mean by that? Well, as you are quote unquote bored, then that discomfort, okay, that the discomfort that sometimes comes from boredom oftentimes pushes individuals to seek out a new experience, to seek out new knowledge, to seek out a new skill. Now, all of this requires that you pay attention to what you're feeling and experiencing, but sometimes the restlessness of boredom can actually spark a new discovery or a new challenge. You might actually look to, well, what is a skill that I can develop, right? I'm bored. That the discomfort of that can actually kickstart a new challenge, because you wake up to this idea that your happiness is really on the other side of the challenges that you are willing to embrace. I'll say that again. True happiness and fulfillment is not the result of comfort. Happiness and fulfillment, not the result of things being easy. True happiness and fulfillment comes when you can self-reflect and recall or acknowledge and celebrate a challenge that you've overcome. I'm not a, well, I guess I should change that conversation a little bit. I haven't traditionally been a really like a workout guy, a person that goes in the gym, lifting weights and pumping weights, but I've been more committed to it over the last year because I have reasons that I want to live longer. Okay. And a big part of that is, my children, okay, and grandchildren. I'm like, man, I want to be here. I want to live for a long time. So I got to take care of myself. And even though just kind of like genetically, high metabolism, pretty skinny, like my mom used to say, boy, you got legs like the number 11 is what she would say. But you know what I've come to know? Like, skinny doesn't mean healthy. So I have to really start to take an account of how I'm treating my physical body. Now, so, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I'm back now. So I'm going into the gym. I'm starting to work out a bit more. And I was doing the like dumbbell press. And typically for me, that's a 25 or 30 pound weight in each hand, 25, 30 pounds, kind of, okay. But my trainer, he's like, all right, we're going to start doing a little bit more. And so, okay, all right. As long as he's there, okay, I might get a 35 pound and kind of, but that was kind of like the limit on, kind of the cap on it. But I've been doing it now for a few months. And I literally found myself in the gym just yesterday. I found myself in the gym and I've like, okay, I got the 40 pounds in each hand. I'm like, okay, well, then I went to 45 for a set. And that was a new like personal best for me. The highest weight that was there was 50. And there's no one else in the gym. Okay. I have no help if this doesn't go well. I got no help. But I looked at those 50s and I said, I can do that. Yep, I can do it. Never done it before. I can do that. And so, I grab a 50 in each hand and I go and I sit down, on that bench and I'm getting ready to, do the incline press with both. And I'm like, and I, not just 1, 2, 3. Now that arm was shaking a lot. It was shaking a lot on the 4th one, but guess what? I did it. Right. And so for me, that was victory that was born out of the motivation that comes from wanting something more than is status quo for me. So in essence, it's born out of boredom. So I look out into my life, man, I have reason to live longer. I don't want to just do the same mundane routine things that I've been doing. And so over time now, if I find myself in a gym by myself, not really being comfortable in the gym environment, but I find myself there willing to take on new risks, new challenges as a result of. Does that make sense? Okay. So you might look into your life and say, okay, how can you use this like kind of common or comfortable thinking to spark you taking on a new challenge, right? Learning something new, exploring something new, and using the discomfort of boredom to actually push yourself to an extent that goes beyond what has been typically or traditionally comfortable. So not only does boredom potentially stimulate creativity and encourage self-reflection, but it also can lead to you learning and exploring new things and really pushing yourself beyond what is familiar. And ultimately, isn't that what it's about? Like, comfort is not the end game, okay? Comfort is not the end game. The reality is that you can become very comfortable in something that isn't even good for you. You can be comfortable, accustomed to, habitual, doing things that are, in fact, unhealthy. So comfort itself is not the end game. And then also one of the things that that can be derived from boredom is it can prompt reevaluation of your current routine. It is an opportunity for you to reevaluate what you're doing and how you're doing it, because you have time to look on it. You have time to explore it. You have time to actually examine. And so if it is true that we're in a process of continuous growth and expansion, then one of the things we got to be willing to do is explore our current methods. That's how we get to that place of continuous improvement, Kaizen, continuous improvement, being better. I've stated before that your only responsibility, essentially, is not to be better than someone else, but be better than you were the day before. If you just determined that you were going to do that, if you just decided that today you're going to be better than you were on yesterday, and if you get a tomorrow, you'll be better on that tomorrow than you were today. You do that, become bored in that. Have that be the routine that you're in. A habit of being better the next day than you were today. To develop that as a pattern. To go to sleep smarter than you were when you woke up. Boredom can actually prompt that. The downtime that is associated with boredom can lead you to question and reevaluate how things are currently done. And so whether that is in your personal life, in your work, or really like in society at large, the questioning can be the first step in optimizing your process. When you look at the word question, Q-U-E-S-T-I-O-N, question, quest, or we'll say I'm on. The quest I'm on. I believe it was Tony Robbins who said, the quality of your life can be found in the quality of the questions that you're willing to ask. When we find ourselves bored, one of the things that you can do is use that boredom to question how you currently do things. Use the boredom to question how you currently take the action, to question your current routines and processes. And through the proper questioning, identify or wake up to new opportunities for growth and for expansion. See, I don't believe that we can just universally or generally look at a thing and say it in and of itself is negative, including boredom. Why? Because the law states, the law of polarity, that in order for anything to exist, the opposite must exist also. So if we just capture boredom and we only look at boredom as a negative, that means by definition, we have an imbalance in our perspective. And so how can you use that idea of boredom to actually spark new ideas, creativity, new processes, new challenges, to learn something new? As an entrepreneur, there are going to be things that you will do over and over and over and over and over again. You'll eventually perhaps get to a place where you no longer have to do it, where you can hire someone to take that off your plate. But particularly when you're getting started, or perhaps it's something that is so vital to your operation that you don't hand it off, you'll find that you may get bored in doing the thing. But in that, you can actually develop some mastery. Can you find some adventure and excitement in the old thing? Can you be one who falls in love with the journey itself and everything that the journey requires? Can you be one who starts to enjoy the pain? Can you enjoy the frustration? Can you enjoy the bumps? Can you enjoy the bruises? Can you enjoy the sweat? Can you enjoy the tears? because you recognize that what you're engaged in is a journey. And what separates those who achieve and those who don't is the willingness to stay the course. You'd be amazed at the number of people who destroy opportunity because there wasn't enough sizzle, because there wasn't enough excitement. They destroy extraordinary opportunity because they simply got bored. I don't want that to be you. I want you to take your boredom and use it as a catalyst for mastery. As Bruce Lee said, it's not the person who does 10,000 different kicks, but the one who has displayed the patience, the discipline, the mastery to do one kick 10,000 times. You meet that person out on the battlefield, you meet that person out on the field of play, be careful, because they have conquered the mind in such a way that they find excitement in the boredom. Let that be you. It's possible, you know. Let that be you. Develop the mental discipline to stay the course and find excitement and adventure in what bores the rest of them. I hope that helps. If it does, don't keep it a secret. Let someone know that this podcast exists, and you can let them know by forwarding or sharing the link with them, by forwarding it to them and asking them to take a listen. We're pretty close now to 50 episodes, and so there's plenty to go back and listen to if by chance this is your first exposure to this podcast. Also, I would like for you to join my email list. One of the reasons why I'm even more passionate about that is the recent, glitch or the shutdown of, I think it was maybe an hour or two, of Facebook and Instagram. And when it happened, I'm like, see, that's why I want to have my email list not be dependent on platforms so that I can reach you and communicate with you directly. So if you're not a member or if you have not joined my email list, it's really easy, really simple to do. You just go to courtlandwarren.com/opt-in, OPTIN, or maybe opt-in. Okay. But courtlandwarren.com/opt-in, and you'll just quickly fill out your information. That will have you be a member, join the mailing list itself. And when I have things of value, I'm able to share that with you directly. And the reason why that's important to me is because I don't want to be dependent on the platform itself. Subscribe to the channel. Know that you are appreciated. You're never alone. You're not alone. You never have been. We'll see you next time.